On November 2, 2023, at 6:47 a.m. local time in Istanbul, Turkish special forces launched a raid on a luxury hotel in the heart of the city's financial district. Inside, they found their target, a shirtless man with a distinctive tattoo on his shoulder, kneeling with his hands cuffed behind his back. This man was not an ordinary criminal. He was Hakan Ayik, widely known as the Facebook gangster, and Australia's most wanted man for more than 10 years. In one swift operation, a global drug empire worth over £70 million came crashing down. But the most ironic part, the very man who built the empire had also unknowingly designed its downfall. This is the story of how Ayik's growing paranoia led to his collapse and how law enforcement monitored his every move through encrypted communications over 3 years. From street kid to criminal mastermind, Hakan Ayik was born on January 31, 1979, in Sydney, Australia, to Turkish immigrant parents. Raised in the working-class suburb of Kogara, he grew up in a troubled environment marked by addiction and incarceration. Both his cousin and brother ended up in prison. At James Cook Boys Technology High School, Ayik formed critical friendships that would eventually form the base of a billion-dollar crime network. One of his classmates, Danny Karam, would later become the leader of the Comanchero motorcycle club. By 2005, Ayik had risen above low-level street dealing. He operated quietly, building influence behind the scenes. He wore the mask of a businessman and never officially joined the Comancheros, but had significant sway within their ranks. According to a 2008 New South Wales Crime Commission report, Ayik wasn't a public member of the club, but his influence within it was substantial. Building the empire. By 2008, Ayik's criminal ventures were generating enormous profits. He owned 2 watches valued at $500,000 and controlled a network of karaoke bars and brothels in Sydney and Canberra. These businesses served as fronts for international drug importation operations worth hundreds of millions. He forged strategic partnerships across racial and organizational lines. During a brief jail sentence, he met Mark Ho, a mid-level member of a Chinese triad, who became his gateway to precursor chemicals from China. Later, he acquired a chemical lab in Mumbai, India, where he partnered with fellow Australian trafficker Hakan Arif to produce drugs at an industrial scale. Ayik's most dangerous weapon, however, was corruption. In 2009, a civilian employee of New South Wales Police, with access to sensitive investigations, was caught leaking files to Ayik's associates. The same year, phone taps caught Ayik instructing a prison officer to deliver messages to jailed bickies. His network even reached Tonga, where a corrupt customs officer was caught with 40 kilograms of liquid meth imported from South Africa, a digital crime syndicate. What set Ayik apart from other drug bosses was his embrace of technology. While others relied on face-to-face meetings, Ayik championed encrypted communications. He became a key distributor of Phantom Secure, a BlackBerry-based platform that allowed criminals to evade police surveillance. When Phantom Secure was shut down by the FBI in 2018, Ayik shifted to another platform, Cipher, recommended by Comanchero associate Marco Coffin. But when Cipher also came under scrutiny, Ayik made a critical error. He adopted a new app called Anom, which he recommended across his network. Unbeknownst to him, Anom was created by the FBI and Australian Federal Police in a secret operation known as Trojan Shield, Ironside in Australia. It was a trap. Every message sent through the app was monitored in real time. Because Ayik endorsed Anom, its adoption among criminal groups surged. By May 2021, more than 11,000 devices were in use globally. In Australia alone, 1,659 users sent 19.37 million messages. that law enforcement could read as they were written. Living like a king, sealing his fate. While helping authorities build their case unknowingly, Ayik lived lavishly in Istanbul. He renounced his Australian citizenship in 2019 and changed his name to Hakan Reis, which translates to chief in Turkish. He operated out of Istanbul's wealthy suburbs, owning the luxurious King's Cross Hotel in Levent. He had plastic surgery to change his appearance and presented himself as a successful entrepreneur. With his Dutch partner, Floor Messelink, who ran a cosmetic surgery clinic, Ayik appeared to live a legitimate, affluent life. They had 2 children and shared their glamorous lifestyle online. But behind the facade, the hotel was a front and a meeting point for international criminals. Turkish authorities estimated his wealth at over 800 million Australian dollars, with some sources suggesting it could be as high as $2.3 billion. From 2020 to 2021, while Ayik believed his messages were encrypted, law enforcement read every word. Criminals using Anom openly discussed drug routes, shared shipment photos, and even coordinated hits, unaware they were under constant surveillance. Ayik boasted about his power and freedom, even claiming he could get away with murder. What these criminals didn't realize was that each message was a confession. The global scale of Ayik's operations was laid bare. Drugs moved from South America to Australia, Europe, and Asia, involving corrupt officials, business fronts, and organized crime syndicates across continents. In the end, Ayik's trust in technology brought down an empire. A man once feared for his reach and power became the key to unraveling an international criminal network. His story marks a new chapter in the war against organized crime, where smartphones become the evidence and digital overconfidence becomes the Achilles heel. By 2021, law enforcement had achieved unprecedented insight into global drug trafficking operations through intelligence gathered from the Anom platform. They weren't simply intercepting messages, they were witnessing criminal conspiracies unfold in real time. This allowed them to prevent murders and map criminal organizations with a level of detail that would have been impossible using traditional investigative methods. The empire begins to crumble. The first major blow to Hakan Ayik's criminal network came in August 2022 with the arrest of Mark Buttle, the self-proclaimed supreme commander of the Comanchero motorcycle gang. He was extradited from Turkey and arrested in Darwin, Australia, charged with importing over 160 kilograms of cocaine valued at 40 million Australian dollars. Buttle had been using the Anom app to organize large-scale drug shipments from Hong Kong to Melbourne via Sydney. His arrest sent shockwaves through the Comanchero hierarchy. It should have warned Ayik that the encrypted system he trusted had been compromised, but he remained confident that Turkish citizenship and protection would shield him. Despite authorities freezing his assets in July 2023, Ayik believed he was still safe in Istanbul. Even the January 2023 arrest of Duax Dax Ngakuru, another longtime associate and senior Comanchero figure, did not shake his confidence. Ngakuru, known by nicknames like the Negotiator, Bullseye, and El Mato, had acted as a facilitator between the Comancheros and Asian organized crime groups. His capture was another clear sign the network was unraveling. The final takedown. On November 1, 2023, Hakan Ayik's long run as a fugitive ended. Turkish Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya announced that 37 individuals were arrested during dawn raids across Istanbul. These individuals were part of an organized armed criminal syndicate involved in international drug trafficking, money laundering, and violence. Ayik was arrested shirtless and handcuffed, surrounded by heavily armed Turkish special forces. His distinctive shoulder tattoo, previously visible in numerous online photos, confirmed his identity. Also taken into custody were close associates Barish Tuko, Eren Doğan, and Sibel Arif, figures who had been part of Ayik's inner circle since the early days of his criminal rise. Authorities seized over 250 million Australian dollars in assets, ranging from real estate and luxury vehicles to bank accounts and business shares connected to 22 companies. Among those arrested was Duax Ngakuru, Ayik's former classmate and longtime criminal ally. The irony was striking. Two men who had once shared the same high school in Sydney were now arrested together as heads of one of the world's most powerful criminal networks. Operation Ironside's global impact. The impact of Operation Ironside was massive. Over its 3-year duration, Australian law enforcement seized 6.6 tons of illicit drugs and 55.6 million Australian dollars in cash, around 16% of all drugs seized nationwide in that period. Globally, the operation resulted in over 800 arrests across 16 countries. Authorities also seized 149 firearms and prevented at least 20 planned murders, along with multiple mass shooting attempts. Through ANOM, police gained direct, ongoing access to the inner workings of international crime syndicates. Rather than working from the periphery, they had been sitting inside the digital boardrooms of these organizations, watching their operations unfold in real time. The digital confession. Perhaps the most astonishing aspect of Ayik's downfall was how completely he and others had incriminated themselves. The 19.37 million messages intercepted in Australia alone formed what was essentially a massive digital confession. Users discussed smuggling methods, exchanged photos of cocaine shipments, and even arranged assassinations, all under the false belief that the system was secure. ANOM functioned like a private criminal version of a social media platform. What criminals didn't realize was that every message was being monitored by law enforcement. This operation revealed how deeply modern criminal networks rely on digital communication and how this reliance creates new vulnerabilities. Ayik's strength, his early adoption of encrypted platforms, ultimately became the source of his downfall. A £70 million collapse. When Turkish officials audited the network, the immediate asset seizures amounted to over 250 million Australian dollars, approximately 130 million pounds. But investigators believe this only scratches the surface of the true wealth generated by the operation. Property records revealed numerous luxury homes, high-end vehicles, business interests in hospitality and healthcare, and international financial holdings. The scale of the collapse was extraordinary. A global drug empire that had taken more than a decade to build, earning more than $1 billion a year, fell apart in a single night. There was no time to hide assets or alert key figures. The downfall was swift and total. Current status and lasting legacy today. Hakan Ayik remains in Turkish custody. Although the United States has indicted him under the RICO Act, which could lead to a 20-year federal prison sentence, his Turkish citizenship makes extradition unlikely. Meanwhile, Operation Ironside continues to impact global organized crime. Criminal groups are now reevaluating their methods of communication, facing a climate of growing paranoia and uncertainty. As of June 2024, 392 individuals in Australia have been charged with 2,355 offenses under the operation. Collectively, these individuals have received 307 years of prison sentences, and new intelligence continues to emerge as prosecutions proceed. A new era of digital crime and enforcement. The fall of Hakan Ayik stands as a striking reminder that in the digital era there are no safe havens. The The very tools criminals use to hide can become the means through which they are watched and ultimately destroyed. Hayek's own words, sent over an app he believed to be secure, became the evidence that brought his empire crashing down. A criminal network that had grown quietly for over a decade was dismantled in hours, not through traditional detective work, but through the strategic use of technology. And as this chapter ends, the digital arms race between criminals and law enforcement continues, each side evolving, innovating, and preparing for the next battle.